Here's Brody Brazil.
I just got back from covering A's Spring Training 2024 in Mesa, Arizona. And of the dozens of trips I've made down to the desert over the years, this one obviously just went and felt a little bit different. And so as I get home here, I start to decompress and put my thoughts together. I wanted to make this video in kind of an urgent sense to get everything together while it was fresh and give you, I think there's 5 different takeaways here from my time down in Mesa. Now, these come in no particular order, but I do want to start with this. It really feels like an insulated spring training camp down there. When I say that, maybe you could also describe it as being in a bubble or an alternate reality. Because when I traveled down there and through my most recent weeks and months, all the headlines, all the talk about the Oakland A's has nothing to do with the players or the team on the field this year. It has everything to do with potential relocation and the interim years and that entire situation, which has so many questions. And for obvious reasons, look, no game this year, no player on this team this season is as important as the next 5, 10, 20, 50 years of the franchise, where they will continue to play games or not. So understanding that, when you arrive at spring training and being a part of this spring training camp, none of those headlines are even prevalent when you're around the guys or during their training sessions or obviously their spring training games. They have insulated themselves from everything externally that's happening. And that should come as no surprise. These are young baseball players who, quite honestly, don't necessarily have their own 2025s straightened out yet. So how could they worry about the team? They might be moved or traded or sent down or sent somewhere else. They're very much focused on the immediate future, and that's all they're supposed to do. So it is kind of an alternate reality, though, for somebody like me who is seeing and hearing all of that stuff going down there, and then while you're there, it almost totally disappears. Now, I should also include that geography probably helps this insulation. It's not like spring training is held in Oakland or in Las Vegas or Sacramento or Salt Lake City. This is Arizona, where there's not really the same conversation about the future of the A's, and fans aren't coming with questions and signs and things like that. So I totally understand, and that's kind of the nature of spring training anyway. You go down to Arizona for nice weather, but also to get away from your home city and kind of make it a true business trip. So I think the geography and the player focus and how camp is run, all of that lends itself to being in this alternate reality, which again is weird because I'll cap it off by saying this. As soon as I left Arizona and started to kind of get back into real life again, you see that the headlines are not about what player's going to win a job this year or how many more games this team might win. Those conversations do happen, but I think you can understand by and large, the biggest headlines surround this team's future. And so to come back to reality and see all that stuff again, it was just kind of weird looking back to know that, that bubble on the inside was created. But again, no surprise. And if you're David Forst and Mark Kotsay and your performance is on the line, this is absolutely what you have to do. So, it was different being down there in that sense. The next thing I'll bring up here is the game jersey issue. Now, as I record this, there have yet to be any announcements about remedies or fixes, but I got to see these things up close and personal, not just for the A's, but a couple different teams. And the jerseys, let's talk about the tops first. I mean, they totally look and feel different. It's one thing to look at pictures and say, I think that's different. I mean, look at the piping on that jersey. It's way different than last year. But if you actually feel it, you get hands-on with these jerseys, they feel a lot more thin. And they're supposed to perform better, but what's the balance between performing better and looking cheaper and looking traditional versus something that players don't necessarily like? Look, the outcry among ball players this spring, if it were 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 guys saying things, okay, you chalk that up to the nature of change. But in this sense, so many players across so many different teams with so many different concerns. The tops are part of it. The whole transparent pants part of it. I don't think Major League Baseball can kind of sweep this one under the rug. It's out there. I'm going to assume that Nike and Fanatics and MLB are already working on this. The question is, even if they want to fix it by opening day. I mean, we can talk about this right now. Even if tomorrow or today, earlier today, they came out and said, hey, we're going to fix this, we're going to make it right. Can they do it for the players actually in time for the season? Because as I understand it, these orders and the current jerseys that are wearing right now, those were put in motion months ago. So I don't know if they're going to have the time to turn all this around. I know they should commit to at least doing that, but it's kind of already too late. They've taken all the photos, they've done the headshots, they've done a lot of media that's going to last throughout the year in these old or new, but maybe older, outdated jerseys by some point. But it is definitely a bit of an issue. Okay, I'm going to switch things up here, and you're about to hear from Mark Kotsay. Let's listen to this before anything else.
My people inside the organization say camp so far has been kept very light. All things considered, last couple of years, on the field, off the field, you probably have to keep it that way, but how do you keep a spring training camp light?
Well, light in the sense of maybe, the outside noise. It's not light by any measure on the workload because
Okay.
we didn't get off the field yesterday till about 1:30, and guys are working hard. Pitchers and catchers have been here now 10 days today. We haven't really taken a moment to kind of step off the gas pedal. We understand how we broke camp last year, and April was the most difficult month you could experience. So we're definitely pushing our thumb down on them from a work standpoint, from a fundamental standpoint of drilling it in. But in terms of the mood, it's a great group. It definitely is a group that kind of found themselves a little bit last year towards the end of the year. We've added a lot of new faces too, some veteran ones that weren't here last year. That there's some excitement and some leadership as well.
Light emotionally, heavy physically. I see what you're saying there.
Good follow-up, Brazil. By the way, seeing two of me on the same screen at the same time, that was too much. I apologize for doing that to you. You'll see Zach Gelof by himself in just a second. But no, I think Mark Kotsay's tone, and again, part of it was that insulation that he's created in this camp to not, hear everything else that's going on. And again, I just want to separate the players from everything else. They have no control over this. They have no say. They shouldn't even really be asked about this in spring training, if I'm being honest. They should exclude themselves from the conversation unless they really have the background and the credentials or the true desire, a true passion, right? If they kind of don't care one way or another, it's almost like nobody's gonna fault you if you just say, I'm gonna leave that one alone for a bit. Anyway, the tone that Mark Kotsay was talking about, it's important because they did go 12-50 to start their last season. And if you're really gonna go up, and that's all he's caring about and concerned about, up has to start somewhere. Maybe that was the middle of last year. Maybe it's a fresh start here with spring training. But losing can snowball, and they quickly realized that. They just did not get out of the gate last year. So having a respectable season starts at the start. I don't think this is a team that can afford to figure it out along the way. They've got to feel confident. They've got to feel like they've got a roster that can be at least consistent, have some type of calling cards throughout the course of the season. And so I give Mark Kotsay a lot of credit for that tone that he's trying to set. All right, Jenny Kavnar, Chris Carey. Oh, that's also Dallas Braden and me, but don't mind us. We're just the same old thing. Good to meet the A's new broadcasters in person. I've known Jenny for a while. Just got to meet Chris literally in the hotel lobby. We found out we'd be sharing an Uber together 5 minutes into the trip. So we had a lot of good talks and conversations over meals and at the ballpark. And look, separate from everything that's going on the field and off the field with the Oakland A's, I'm excited for these two individuals to get a rare opportunity at calling big league games. There's only, I say 30 jobs like this, but 30-something jobs, maybe 40 jobs. And for them and their respective backgrounds and opportunities and for the different reasons for each of them, I am so thrilled that they're getting this opportunity. Like I say here, unique and cool stories. But I think the biggest credential, but biggest thing I could give them here is just cool people, good people. So I look forward to the work that they're going to do on the broadcast this year. And you know what? I will give Dallas credit here because it's hard when you get into broadcasting, and I'll get into the weeds here just a little bit, it's hard to usher in new play-by-play announcers unless you have a solid analyst, right? Because you don't want to have a flimsy analyst and bring in two new announcers and feel like, oh man, this is all a little bit unstable or new, or just you don't know exactly how it's going to go until you get there. And I'm not suggesting that at all. But what I am saying here is there's such a comfort factor with Dallas as kind of the rock here that when you bring in Jenny and Chris, and they're going to be good, but you also know that you're setting them up for success with Dallas. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make here. All of this sits so much better when you kind of have that foundation. And that's where I give DB some credit here as a part of the broadcast team. Okay, From the broadcasters, let's get back to the players. Here's Zach Gelof.
I'm aiming for playing more than 150 games. I think that's for me.
That's a good number. I like that one.
So I think when you're playing that much, numbers take care of itself, and I just want to be, staying on top of my routines and being competitive, to be out there with my teammates. And that's when you're having the most fun. No one likes to be hurt and on the sidelines. So I want to be there every day and try to get a full season.
I had a really good conversation with Zach. That interview is part of one of the All A's episodes that you'll see this season. And I mean, he was so good when he came up post All-Star break last year. You could easily say that he was among the best second basemen in the majors post All-Star break. The batting average was there. The power was there right out of the gate. He's so sure-handed on the right side of the infield. And by the way, before the interview, I'll share this. He had the hat on, and he said, hat or no hat? I was like, it's up to you. This is for television, so you make the call. So he said, I'll be right back. I'll fix my hair. I thought the flow was pretty sick. Zach, if you see this, and you might be here on the YouTube channel. Wink, wink, nod, nod. But his first now full MLB season is ahead of him, and I know that he's going to put not the pressure on him, but the expectations. Like, he really wants to continue just balling out like he was in the second half of last year. And how do I say this? And actually, I shared this with him. It's just seeing him wearing number 20, and he's got the flow a little bit, and he's got a little bit of the swag. He carries himself with confidence, and he should. It kind of reminds me a lot of the early years of Josh Donaldson, or maybe even in more recent years, a Matt Chapman or a Matt Olson, or he mentioned he wanted to model himself after Marcus Semien. I loved that. I loved hearing Zach say that as one of the players that he watches and tries to emulate. So I really look forward to his personal growth, maturation, what he can do this season, and it's a long season. Like he mentioned, he wants to play 150 games because he knows there's going to be some ups and downs. But generally speaking, that'll all even itself out. I think that's going to reveal an excellent baseball player. And whether you want to say Gelof me, or as Chris might debut, Gelo shots when he hits a home run, I think there's so much ahead of Zach Gelof, and great story. Great Oakland A. Really look forward to seeing what he can do with the rest of his career. And it starts here, the first full big league season for the second baseman. So those are my spring training takeaways. And again, I know on this channel we focus about the future of the Oakland A's in so many ways. And yeah, we'll continue to do that here. But I also want to say that this was an interesting experience to go down there, be inside it, be part of it for a little bit, just to kind of gauge the room, so to speak, and see where things are at, and now come back and be removed and put all the different perspectives together. You made it here to the end of the video. I appreciate that. Thumbs up down below. That'll greatly help me in the channel. And also, if you're new here, just coming across this video, that's awesome. I'm glad you found me, but make sure you subscribe so I can definitely see you back here next time.